It's World War III Watch. Let's just face it, it's already started. I'm Matt Weinglass here with co-host Jay Scott, and we're going to look at the back and forth and the escalation happening over these last few days regarding Israel antagonizing, basically aggressively starting, as we would say, starting shit and getting people's attention that they want to go to the next level of war of the Greater Israel Project. So after a sneak attack on Tehran in Iran, which took out some very specific targets, including the 4 negotiators that Trump was supposed to have a meeting with this past Sunday. Guess what? Spoiler alert, that meeting never happened because there was nobody that was going to be left in the room except Trump by himself. I'm surprised someone hasn't made a meme of that and just put Trump in a room with, I'm here for the negotiations, and the other 4 seats aren't there. There should be flowers in the chairs for their, to commemorate that they're no longer alive. With that said, of course, Iran has struck back, and we've seen the media undersell, underplay exactly what effect they were able to have when they proved that the Iron Dome wasn't even that great, well put together. And this happened in Tel Aviv over the last a few hours. There's actually been several attacks at Tel Aviv here. This is one shot that came directly from someone's cell phone. It's kind of showing you how bad it actually is right now for the people in Israel. I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say getting what you deserve, but I'm going to say, how does it feel? I'm asking the question. How does this feel? These are the people that have been partying and celebrating and goofing around and hanging at the beach, while just very, very close by, the people that they've been murdering, killing, occupying, starving to death, and they don't care at all. And now this is happening to them. I'm not saying all of them. I know there've been a few protests in the streets in Tel Aviv, which, we have to point that out. But when we see the numbers, 80% of the people living there have had no problem whatsoever. In fact, have been 100% on board for annihilating and completely wiping out the Palestinian people. And now, guess what? You effed with the wrong people, Iran, and now this is what happens. How does it feel? That's my question. Jay, what's your thoughts watching this? How do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, war is always sad. It's never, and it's never, I never take pleasure in watching the loss of life and property getting damaged. However, that being said, Israel has caused havoc, not just in Palestine, but around the Middle East, over the past few years in particular. But, they've been doing it honestly for, a long time before that too. So, it's truly, I think it's the biggest problem right now is America and Israel may have underestimated what Iran was actually capable of. So in addition to all the evil plans they have, they're also, it seems to me, bad at what they're doing, because right now they're struggling trying to control the narrative in Israel to prevent more footage from coming out to show you the devastation that's, happening at the moment. Because to be honest with you, parts of Israel are starting to look like parts of Gaza, so until, people realize that this isn't like just another bombing by America, this is like the potential for a serious conflict. I don't know if people are going to see the urgency, of what's actually happening right now. So I do hope, I do really hope that people realize Iran's hypersonic missiles, when they are fired, cannot be stopped. So but it's sad to see, life being lost all around, but kind of a lot of people are celebrating right now. And I think that is something that Israelis should really consider, and not just think, oh, it's because they hate Jews, but just really compare the impact of what they've had on the region to what's happening right now. I just hope they can do that, and find some empathy, moving forward. Otherwise, we're in a very dangerous escalatory situation at the moment, I would say.
Yeah, and there's another part to this besides how we're feeling and people that are being very vocal about serves you right and celebrating, which again, yeah, obviously you can take that. If you're a Zionist, you can take that and go, see, I knew you all hated Jews. But if we just step back and just kind of be quiet for a moment, watch the behavior of the people that are there. They a lot of them are scared. They're going into these underground bunkers. They're tweeting out stuff. They're showing videos of stuff. They're crying. But one thing I'm not seeing, and I think this is an interesting tell. One thing I'm not seeing, Jay, I'm not seeing them yelling at the top of their lungs. No one's ever had to go through this ever in the history of the world. And don't you see now we are the victims? I'm not seeing anyone do that. It's a weird thing, but underneath all their Zionist like maneuvering and lying and spinning, they know deep down that this shit's happening right next door, that they've been doing. They know. They know. Because if this really came out of nowhere, if they were minding their own business, you would see a lot of, you see what the world thinks of us. I'm not seeing any of that from them inside right now. I think that's an interesting tell. I really think.
And the way the whole situation even came up, I think, is a bigger sign on, what's happening, because Trump essentially led them on and tricked them into thinking there was a possibility for negotiations, to happen. And because of that, Iran wasn't expecting the attack, and they went straight for decapitation strikes. So if you're trying to decapitate, the entire Iranian regime, you have to expect, a response, to that situation. So it's such an extreme action when things were supposed to be calm and they were trying to get to a deal, that for them not to expect, a heavy response, is pretty stupid. But I guess they knew it was going to be a heavy response, but I feel like their defense systems have been overwhelmed, and the Iron Dome definitely wasn't prepared, for what they've been hit with, because there's been a ton of damage on both sides. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying all the damage is happening in Israel. However, northern Israel over in Haifa, southern Israel, Tel Aviv, they've been bombed all over, and a lot of their actual, defensive guns that shoot down the incoming missiles and their launchers, they've been shot too. So it's not a good situation for Israel at the moment.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to get into the Trump, the public relations, damage control, maneuvering, who's doing what, we'll get into that part in a second. But I do want to point out that this, someone threw this up, I guess it was on CNN, and we have to be very careful what we see reported by mainstream. If you guys, our previous segment, we were just looking at all the propaganda that just comes at you, mostly from Fox News right now, but certainly ABC, CNN, they're doing it too. But this report comes from the ground in Tel Aviv from a CNN reporter, and I think it's interesting to look at and understand why would they be reporting on the Mossad right now. This happened today. This is interesting that they're reporting on the Mossad. Check this out.
Intel view that among the targets were Israeli airfields, but also, and this is crucial, the headquarters of Mossad, the International Intelligence Service of Israel, which is inside Tel Aviv. It's in the northern part of Tel Aviv, but it's in the city. It's in a densely populated area. And of course, the concern is if you're firing, even though Iran might consider that a military target, it is in a densely populated city with civilians around it. And that's just one more layer of escalation.
They're so concerned about the civilians now, huh? But yeah, go ahead.
It's interesting that they bring this up. I tend to think this is the one time, I don't know, they say broken clock analogy. There's another, I don't really like that analogy, but there's the 1 out of 100, they're telling you the truth. Mainly because I think that being on the ground, if you get that intel and you just are ready to look, the guy's live. I don't know if he necessarily, maybe he would have been told don't mention the Mossad, but he got that intel. He was live on a feed and he just said it. Nobody else brought it up. I would understand if it was like damage control, like some are saying it was Mossad, but it wasn't. They're totally fine. Everything's good. Why would you even bring up the Mossad to your viewers at all? That's so I tend to think that there might have been an accomplishment done by one of these strikes where the Mossad got hit. I think that might be an accurate report. And that's great news if that happened. That's excellent news. And CNN's telling us this. And I don't know if they had a chance to filter that information before the guy just told us that. That's my suspicion. I don't know your take on that, but that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a possibility. I know a lot of Iran's top people were actually taken out, in the original strike by Israel. So it only makes sense that they would go all out to try to find as high level people as they can, in government and in the military, to try to take them out over in Israel too. So I would say I still don't think there's that much of a wedge between, the mainstream media and Zionist interests. I still believe, they're going to do their best to present, the Israeli perspective, because I haven't watched a ton of mainstream news over the past few days, but it does seem like they are presenting the image that, Israel is actually, winning this, and they're taking some hits, but, Iran is really the one who's in trouble. And they're trying to downplay, I guess you could say, what's happening to Israel from what I've seen. So I don't know. Have you watched a lot of mainstream news? Have you gotten that vibe on from them, or?
They're generally downplaying. I think the idea is that they're trying to, and this, we always say this to our audience, that it's key when all of them are aligning on the same messaging, when it comes to Trump making a decision for our country, and that they're not making him look like the guy that is not in control. Because I think what I'm seeing is that Trump has lost control of the situation. I don't know if he's ever been in control. He's being told what to do. When we have Netanyahu coming on TV he's doing his rounds on Fox, on ABC, and he's telling us, oh yeah, Trump's doing a great job at baiting and switching you. That's what he's saying. He's saying, don't mind that he said he knew nothing about this. He knew everything about it. We were totally aligned. We knew we were going to take out those negotiators. So he was basically faking that whole thing on our behalf. He's doing an excellent job. And now he's going to pretend right on cue that Iran is this close to nuclear weapons. And we played this on the last segment, but I'm going to play it again if you guys are just joining us, because it's important you guys understand that for him to do this has to be something he was instructed to do. So he's deflecting the question of why are you telling us that there are weapons coming out, that there's nuclear arsenal coming out of Iran any day now, when your director of foreign intelligence has told us very clearly that they do not have that capability, and that was as early as March.
That's why Tulsi's getting shut out now. But anyway, yeah, go ahead.
That's why she's getting shut out now. But the fact that he has to say this and act like, oh no, don't listen to anything that Tulsi says. Let me grab this. Hold on, where did it go? I had this earlier. Hold on. Okay, here we go. This is Trump deflecting the Tulsi question, which whoever the reporter is, it's a great question. Why? What do you have to say about Tulsi's assessment that Iran has no nuclear capability?
How close do you personally think that they were to getting one? Because Tulsi Gabbard testified in March that the intelligence community said Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon.
I don't care what she said. I think they were very close to having one.
I don't care what she said.
But Matt, he only picks the best people. He only picks the best people, and he doesn't care about their opinions. Go ahead.
No, this is people defending Trump are going to say he's overriding because he has the right gut instinct. It's a feel-good moment. Yeah, get out of here with your analysis. I have a gut feeling. But I think it's far more. It's far worse than that, Jay. This is somebody who's getting given exact instructions that he needs to deflect that, and he needs to get on board with the lie that Iran's ready to strike us, and specifically not just Israel, ready to strike us. Yeah. Netanyahu is telling us, and for those of you guys who missed it, this is Tulsi's official report. This is the report from March. There is no program, nuclear weapons program. It's been suspended in 2003. Nobody challenged that then. Nobody came on TV and said, Tulsi's, you're actually not very good at your job. None of this is true. No, everybody was fine with it then. And this was less than 90 days ago.
But
so,
Matt, there's no need to debate the points, man, because, we don't need to talk about the facts. It's just time to get emotional, man. That's all. Like, are you with America or are you with the terrorists?
Yeah. And so with Netanyahu now talking directly to Trump's base, who we know is divided. We know on one side you have Tucker Carlson, you have obviously Candace Owen, you have Marjorie Taylor Greene. These are people who are saying this is not what we voted for. This is not okay. This is not America first. And you know what? Good news, Jay, is that a lot of his bases are listening to them. They're saying, you guys are right. This doesn't sound like America first. What are all these hats? What were all those hats about? What was MAGA? What does that even? What MAGA means nothing if Netanyahu is in charge. So with that, Netanyahu has to do damage control, and he's got to go on TV on ABC. I'm gonna grab this one again. We had this because this is also real fake news. It's World War III watch and real fake news all together at the same time. It's pretty crazy because none of this is all fake. But he's using the America first against Trump's own base by saying it's America dead.
Tomorrow it's New York.
It's kind of like a threat.
I understand America first. I don't understand America dead.
Help me or you're dead, Matt. That's what it sounds like.
When Netanyahu says America dead, I think on first here, we assume that means Iran's ready to attack us. And that is what he's suggesting. However, there might be something even more nefarious going on there.
Did you get that Samson option posted?
I got it. We're going to look at that. We're going to look at the Samson option right now. Yeah. This is pretty concerning, to say the least. So we're going to start with this. This is the Samson option. Just the breakdown of it is if Israel gets in trouble and is threatened at a level where they can't exist the way they're going to be able to exist anymore, their final move will be launching nukes. And it will be at their apparent allies, the ones that have been allowing them to exist this entire time. Washington, New York, LA, Colorado, Paris, London, Berlin, Moscow. Now, you guys think this could be some hype online? Well, we looked closer, and this is a very just to the nuts and bolts of what is the Samson option, and more importantly, why haven't we heard of it before? But it is a doctrine that does exist in Israel's it's part of their philosophy. It's so they can pull it out at any time, just like we've seen them pull out other things from their doctrine, which we've seen, like the Hannibal directives, like we've seen things get pulled out of it's a little Rolodex of things that they have put aside and put together. So here's a little breakdown for you guys. If you guys are hearing about this for the first time, which most likely you are, you've gone your whole lives, you didn't know the Samson option existed. Here's a quick breakdown of it.
People have never heard of the Samson option, but it's not a secret. It's on Wikipedia, in Israeli media, and it was first exposed by Jewish American journalist Seymour Hersh, the same Pulitzer Prize winner who uncovered Abu Ghraib.
Let's also add in, give a little notch on the belt to Seymour Hersh for uncovering the Nord Stream pipeline, which was done by Joe Biden and the gang of NATO. So that also was done. He's got a long list of accomplishments as a award-winning journalist. But yes, let's go on with his discovery of the Samson option.
The Samson option is Israel's last resort nuclear doctrine. If the state faces collapse, it won't just strike its enemies. It plans to strike major world capitals, not just Tehran or Damascus, but Washington, D.C., New York, Paris, Berlin, even cities in the countries that fund it. Recently leaked Israeli documents list these exact targets, confirming what Hersh warned about decades ago. This isn't a defense policy. It's global blackmail. A doomsday doctrine where the entire world becomes collateral if Israel falls. Iran has never threatened to nuke its allies, but Israel has, and still might. So ask yourself, if any other country had a doctrine like this, would we call it a democracy or a threat to civilization?
Biggest threat, man, to world peace right now. It's like a colonialist mentality, like mixed with a suicidal, drive, like to get it done. So it's really insane that most people in America still call Israel our number. A lot of people in America, thankfully, the number is going down now, but a lot of people here still call Israel our number one ally, even though they're essentially threatening to nuke our most important cities if they don't get their way. And if the Greater Israel Project doesn't go the way they intend it to, they're willing to bring down the entire world with them. That's their mentality right now, unfortunately.
It really shines a new light. And we've been relooking at the stuff we gone through early on. We've all lived through 9/11. We've lived through the war on terror, the creation of this. We're gonna attack them over there, so they don't attack us here. Weapons of mass destruction in Iran, in Iraq. The illegal torture programs, the funneling of the money into the military-industrial complex. At the time, we thought it was this maniacal plan between the Bush and Cheney regime of, the Wolfowitz and Rumsfeld and all those players. And we tried to talk about it. Then nobody wanted to hear. They go, no, there's no way. There's no way your country. You think your country would hurt its own people? How dare you? Why don't you get? I heard people tell that to me. I said, no. Look at Building 7. Look at the money trail. Look at the manufacturing of consent to get people on board to go to places that had nothing to do with attacking. No, that was just a mistake. They just had bad intel. Okay, well, we know it was a lie. We know that for a fact. But here's the thing, Jay. As we realize now, there's new information we didn't know then. We thought it was just this team, this think tank, the Project of a New American Century in 2000 that put this together. We never thought to ask, and we never thought to ask the General Clark when he revealed the 7 wars in 5 years, and this is what we're doing, and there's no questions asked, and we have to do these wars, and we have to figure out how to do these wars. We never asked the question of who gave that order above that top down. And it turns out this whole time it was an outside entity. So now there's a new piece. So we said, okay, well, how were they able to control us all this time? Well, AIPAC, right? Money to buy off all of our politics, all of our media, our education system, our entertainment industry. Just they buy everything off, and they're able to control everything with bribing. Then we hear about sexual blackmail. Oh, if they don't go along with it, we'll reveal tapes that Jeffrey Epstein. So all of this is connected. All this is connected, man. Now there's a new level we're discovering with the Samson option. There's a new level. So you have the bribing, right? You have everyone's going to make money, so shut your mouth and get in line. You have if you don't do it, we're going to sexually blackmail you. Now there's a new level, and that is if you still refuse the money and you don't care about the sexual blackmail, and you're tired of Israel and you want to stop this, and you want us to go, you're going to let Iran take us down. You're going with us. And maybe that's the thing. That's really the thing. So at all this time, we've been saying, AIPAC money, stop taking AIPAC money. How dare you greedy mother effers taking What if it was worse than that? What if it was worse than the sexual blackmail? What if it was literally, if you don't do this, everyone's dead? Because we are so insane. We are such psychopaths. We don't care. We're all going out together. Try us. Yeah. Is that the thing that has been allowing our country for so many decades now, Jay, to be this little bitch for this military psychopath, illegal occupation, the apartheid state, all of these decades? Is that the thing? It could be.
It's part of it, but it's also not the only thing, because before Israel had nukes, they were already taking over. So there's another driving force, behind what's happening, right? And while, Zionism is obviously a huge issue in the world today, and, probably the biggest, cause behind what we're seeing between Iran and Israel, but what most people don't realize is once you follow that chain of events all the way to the top and the chain of command all the way to the top, there's even probably additional layers beyond Zionism. If you talk about some of the older secret societies, like most people don't realize the tattoo that Pete Hegseth has on his chest is specifically like the Templar cross. So that's another, ancient secret society most people really don't know too much about. So we have to talk about all of the influences, that are impacting our government, as we're focusing in on this situation, so we can figure out how to prevent it, from happening again. Because if they weren't using Zionism, they would have been using another religion. Because, back in the day, the oligarchs, weaponized Catholicism. You had the Ottoman Empire, that ran a big part of the world. So each religion can be weaponized. And it just so happens today that right now Zionism is that tool that's being weaponized. So,
this is why we have invested in Palantir. This is why we have aligned ourselves with these technocrats, I think, that can then get this job done and keep everybody kind of in place, because our other option would be just that we're all just going to go out. So you might as well be on the side of the shark that's going around eating everyone up, and you embed this technology into everything we do. That we know that Iran attack that set this whole thing off last week. We know that was Palantir technology that pinpointed those negotiators, eliminated them, took them off the table. And so Alex Karp, I'm going to put this up because we had been talking about Alex Karp for so long, but this part's important because this shows us how all these pieces are set up to a point where Trump doesn't have a choice. Trump does not get to say, we're sitting this out. He actually doesn't get to do that. And so we can be all mad at him and say, how could you do this to us? You're such a weak piece of crap. Yeah. While the left is saying you're a tyrannical Nazi. No, he's weak. He's frail.
And really quick. Yeah, exactly. And really quick, just so the viewers know what a key role Trump played in this whole thing. Yeah. Like, right now, the Iranians actually say that Trump tricked them with the negotiations. So if you weren't paying attention and reading, independent media, you wouldn't know that, it's being coordinated, between Trump and Netanyahu, because most of his supporters think that he's been blindsided, when in reality, Trump started the countdown. He said 60 days from today, Iran better have signed a deal. Otherwise, there's going to be consequences. Yep. And 61 days after he said that, the decapitation strike aimed at regime change started happening. And just read between the lines of what Trump is actually saying, because on the one hand, they're saying right now they're not going for regime change. It's just about the nuclear facilities, and they want to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. On the other hand, they're also saying, as long as you don't attack American soldiers and American bases, we're not going to get involved. Yeah. So that leaves an easy route for a false flag to draw America into the war. So we're being slow walked by Trump into this war. He's been part of the plan the whole time.
He's been part of the plan the whole time. He's kind of like, if this is an evil Avengers team, he would be like evil Hulk that you unleash with his crazy tweets. When really the real technology is the Palantir technology. That's your Iron Man, your evil Iron Man doing the Palantir technology. And then you got your Thor, your evil Thor, which is Netanyahu, saying, I can put my hammer down on you guys in a second. I'm the God up here looking down. I'm just making this stuff now, but I'm kind of seeing this evil Avengers, and Trump he's no better than a Hulk going, I don't think he even can, he even fully understands what's going on here. I think he's unleashed when he needs to be unleashed, to distract and make you think that that's the problem, is Hulk knocked down a building, when meanwhile it's the technology that is doing all the damage, and they're the more sophisticated timing. You talk about the timing, Jay. I don't know. I think Trump is waiting to be told what to tweet out next, because it's so bizarre to me that he's so all over the place. I don't think he's not focused. He's not back and forth.
If you look through it through the lens that Trump is trying to slow walk us into something that is deeply unpopular, I think all of his moves make complete sense. So that's why I truly think he's a lot more part of this plan than people realize.
You think he's more like a red Hulk that can think, he's a little more intelligent?
I think so.
Or the green, or whatever. I'm mixing up all the Marvel stuff. But
he may have a basic vocabulary, but he is like somewhat of a strategic thinker. He has been around the political, arena for a long time, at least paying attention on the peripherals, and he's been involved in the backdoor deals. So he really knows, look at his mentor, Roy Cohn. Roy Cohn represented the merger between intelligence agencies and organized crime, and that's who mentored Donald Trump. So I truly think, he's part of the strategy, and his experience in WWE, just priming us for what he's doing right now. Because we saw him do it before in WWE. Now he's doing the same acting job from the president's office.
That's true. Very, very showy, very WWE-ish. So let's connect the dots for people that miss this. So I again, I think we disagree slightly on. I'm thinking it's very chaotic. You're thinking it's very strategic. But either way you look at it, he has a lot of power just tweeting out on Truth Social how people respond when he puts this out. Iran should have signed the deal. I told them to sign. What a shame. What a waste of human life. Simply stated, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. I said it over and over again. Everyone should immediately evacuate Tehran. So, this is to have this type of power on one tweet, and then you get the roads of Tehran. Now, there's like 10 million people live there. This is a massive city. Massive. This is what he did. One little tweet turned into this. Those people are waiting and waiting. They're not going to. I don't know how they're going to all get out of there. It's pretty nuts. They're trying to get a shot of how the see all the red in the background. It's all one side. That whole strip. That whole strip. So that Trump created that with one tweet. That's the kind of power he has. And again, I don't like the timing on this, Jay. I'm saying there was a negotiation meeting set up for Sunday, and this attack happened on Friday. That doesn't sound. If you look at the calendar, I think he shortchanged them. Netanyahu shortchanged them by a couple days. I don't think that's the way it works. If you give somebody a deadline, you have up until the deadline. You don't get to murder them. It's like our credit card companies. You have to pay this by this date. They don't come murder you the day before and say, hey, I got one more day here. You get to the deadline. You get to have to the deadline, man.
If your goal though is to drag America into the war, then it does make perfect sense, because you know why? It's supposed to. Why would Iran come back and negotiate with America and Israel now, just knowing what happened during the last time we negotiated, right? So if you understand that Iran has more missiles than Israel does, which it does, if Iran has a much bigger fighting force, which it does, then your only hope is getting America into the war. How can you get America into the war? Americans have to feel sorry for Israel, and we have to have more of a reason for hating Iran, which is why I believe we should definitely be on the lookout for potential false flags. If you guys have never heard of the U.S. Liberty situation, go check it out. Israel has attacked us before, and they would do it again. But my only point is, I don't think necessarily Iran and Israel. I don't think. Sorry, I lost my train of thought right there.
No, but let's go through how these tweets. He just keeps putting these out like every few hours. He'll just he'll just say, oh, look at this. We now have complete total control of the skies over Iran. Iran has good sky trackers and other defense equipment and plenty of it, but it doesn't compare to America-made, conceived, and manufactured stuff. Nobody does it better. So I mean, this is just like, is this he thinks he's on a game show? Like this is The Apprentice, like cut to a commercial. This is insane. Like I cannot believe. And again, people on the left think that he's this like dictator, fascist Hitler guy. But I'm telling you, this is just a guy who just doesn't even know how politics works. He's just, you're giving him more credit. You're saying this is strategic. But let's look at the, he's got another one after that. Hold on, I'm going to grab this other one. So what are these people supposed to do? They see this stuff passed around on their social, like, oh my God, what is he suggesting? What is he saying? Now look at this. This comes out next. Unconditional surrender. We know exactly where the so-called supreme leader is. So now look at this threat. Look at this. He is an easy target, but he is safe there. We are not going to take him out. Kill, at least not for now. I like how he has to put kill in parentheses. I mean, this is like really juvenile. I'm telling you, man, this is not well thought through. I don't think that's not how thank you for telling us that you didn't just suggest murdering him and take him out. But we don't want missiles shot at civilians or American soldiers. Our patience is wearing thin. Thank you for your attention to this matter.
Yeah, that's the key right there, because they just told you how this is going to happen, right? If a shot goes off at an American base, it's going to automatically be blamed on Iran, not Israel. And the same way how they tried to do it with U.S. liberty to drag us into the war, they would do it to drag us into the war here. And they've already admitted now that regime change is going to be the goal if Americans get shot at, but only if Americans get shot at. For now, we're just talking about the nuclear program, even though Netanyahu, who Trump has never came out and openly criticized, has been back and forth saying, regime change is what needs to happen. He's encouraged the people of Tehran and the people of Iran to rise up and overthrow their government right now. So Netanyahu is telling people that regime change is the goal. Trump is telling people the nuclear deal is the goal right now. But if you attack Americans, then we're going to go beyond the nuclear equipment and we're going for regime change too. So the ultimate goal does seem to be regime change. And I would say the spark we need to look for is when you hear an announcement on the news that an American base, has been attacked, or a tanker or an oil refinery or something along those lines. Like we've seen in Operation Northwoods, like the U.S. government has planned to do it to itself to justify consent for a war with Cuba. And the American government has also let Israel do it to us with the U.S. liberty thing that we never hold them accountable for. So don't think that American lives and American soldiers are off limits for these people when it comes to them achieving their goals. Everything is fair game for them.
Yeah. Well, just a reminder, and I think I'm gonna try and convince you to come a little over on my side here, Jay, as far as how much power Trump has and how much he's really playing this little delicate game versus he's not even in charge. Let's remind you, and this about Palantir. You guys have heard, if you've been watching our show, you've been hearing Palantir. This is the guy I would say has way more power right now than Trump. Way more. He gets to tell us the U.S. will very likely fight a three-front war against Russia, China, and Iran. Palantir's Alex Karp says, he said this back in August before the election. He knew his technology's already been implemented in ICE. So you guys know we're talking about the immigration issue. It's in everything. All the ICE raids, the Iran attack you just saw on Friday the 13th, everything is Palantir. COVID policy, Palantir. I don't know if you guys knew that. Working directly through NATO. Every NATO operation, every Israel operation, it's Palantir. So you get to, and not to mention the big, beautiful bill. Let's not forget the big, beautiful bill. You think Trump was like, hey, guys, before you put that out, can I put a little provision in here about how the states don't get to do anything about the AI clause for 10 years, just so Palantir can have even more power on a national level and control a private company controlling all of the databases, all of the tactical, coordinations of government agencies, they're going to be above that. So Alex Karp and Peter Thiel and my VP, JD Vance, will have more power than me. And it reminds me of a Bush and Cheney situation where we knew that Bush was just the guy that went on camera and said, we're going to smoke them out of their caves. And we knew he wasn't making the decisions. It was Cheney and the rest of them. It seems like that's what we have going on here. And there's less people aware of that now because they're too busy saying Trump, the dictator, and they don't understand he's not making these decisions. There's just no way, Jay. Before you respond about Palantir, can I also mention, because hold on to that thought, there's the Mossad. We talked about the Mossad being a target. There's a reason the Mossad was a target in Tel Aviv earlier in the segment. It's a massive problem. So let me connect the dots here and I'll pass you the floor. But as we're re-looking back in the past, back in 2002, War on Terror, who was calling the shots? This might be the most important clip you guys see today. I was saving it for last year of the segment. This is the most important thing for you to see. Colonel Lawrence Wilkerson, who was part of the Pentagon in 2002, is going to explain to us who was actually running the Pentagon in 2002 up through today. Here you go.
It's unquestionable that the Epstein business was heavily influenced, let me put it that way, by Mossad.
And so that's somehow emblematic on these huge geopolitical issues.
Yes, I watched Mossad take over the Pentagon. In 2002, the Pentagon was infiltrated by Mossad. They did not need any identification to get through the river entrance of the building. They went upstairs to Douglas Feith, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, the third most powerful man in the Defense Department. Occasionally, they went to the second most powerful man, Paul Wolfowitz, the Deputy Secretary of Defense, and they had run of the Pentagon. Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, said to my boss one time, "Hell, I don't run my building. Mossad does."
And there it is, guys. There it is. There's your connector. There's the follow-up question Amy Goodman never gave to Colonel Wesley Clark, when General Wesley Clark on her show, on her stage in 2012, when he said the top-down order was 7 countries in 5 years. She never followed up and said, who do you think gave that order? Not that he would have answered the question, but we're being told right now exactly who is running everything, and it was the Mossad. That was top down, coming from a foreign entity the entire time. So between Palantir telling us what their plan is, with their technology implemented into our laws, into our society, into our government agencies, between Palantir and the Mossad, please explain to me, somebody explain to me how Trump has any power in anything he does at all from this point moving forward. Oh, your mic.
That's a great question. So I like to answer it with an analogy, right? If you have a household, right? Let's call Palantir the wife, and let's call the government, which Donald Trump is leading right now, the husband, right? As of right now,
who's the Mossad then in that equation?
The Mossad is on Palantir's side. Like they're
double.
Yeah.
So a big mom.
No. Mossad is the house next door. Sorry, so it's a little bit different. They're the house next door, but
or the landlord. How about the landlord? The landlord.
What was that?
What if Mossad is the landlord? I'm trying to help you out. You don't want to...
That's not Mossad. That's Zionist interest. But I get what you're saying. What you're saying. Right. So, but really quick, between Trump, and Palantir, right? We have to consider the fact that Palantir wouldn't exist without government contracts. So Trump right now could get on TV and say, Palantir is an un-American company. We should not be working with this entity because, they're going to bring in a totalitarian state. And Palantir, as a business model, would collapse, like if he followed through on that with legislation to prevent them from doing that, right? So the Palantir can't accomplish its goals without the American government actually getting out there and doing it. So, if the husband listens to his wife, right, every time she tells him to make a big purchase, like I like that house, go buy that house, but the husband is the one who makes all the money, then who's the one who really has the power? You could say it's the wife, because she's the one telling the husband what to do and they're listening. But if the husband decides one day, you know what, I'm not going to listen to her anymore, I'm going to do my own thing. AKA if America said, I'm not going to listen to Israel anymore, I'm going to do my own thing, then Israel would actually cease to exist, because they wouldn't actually, I doubt they would exist, at least not in the apartheid form they're in right now, if they didn't have the unconditional support, of America backing up their every move. So I wouldn't say that Palantir is, they are controlling the government to an extent, but can Trump stop it? Of course he can. He's just not going to, because he's invested in the same interests and he's been running in the same circles long before he started his political career. Like Roy Cohn, don't forget, I keep bringing him up because Roy Cohn represented the merger between intelligence agencies and organized crime, AKA the deep state, AKA this Epstein network. And he was Trump's introduction to politics. So I'm not going to give Trump, I'm sure Trump does make silly mistakes, but I do think overall he's a strategic person. He may not have the biggest vocabulary, but he's kind of smart. He knows how to read a crowd. So I'm not going to take those things away from Trump. So give him credit and realize that if the president didn't matter, then there would be literally no point in voting every 4 years. And they do have to at least keep the show up, because the president does have power if they choose to use it. When you combine what they can do with the stroke of the pen and the power of the bully pulpit, because the president can command a lot more media attention than any other person on the face of this earth.
Well said. I think hard to argue with that, Jay. And I don't think any of us are saying that Trump doesn't have any skills. I clearly his best skill is working the crowd. Clearly, that's why he was handpicked by the deep state to be the face and the voice and the thumbs of the operation, to engage his crowd, do the shock and awe tweets in the middle of the night.
He knows how to do it. Camouflage. He has great sheet camouflage, essentially. So
so there you are. And so couple funny memes to end the segment, since we've been so dark and gloom and doom and all this Debbie Downer stuff. This guy, Mark Taylor pointed this out a few years ago, but it's still true today. If we lose Israel, then who will fund child sex rings for blackmail? That's a great question. We won't have anyone left to do the blackmail.
Listen, man,
so
secret societies, man, Skull and Bones, Freemasons, Knights Templars. I don't know if all of them are always involved in that stuff, but trust me, it didn't start with Zionism. They're just like the front men right now. They're the puppet behind. They're like a puppet of a puppet. Like, I guess you could say the Zionist people are the puppets. The powerful Zionists are the puppets controlling those puppets. And then there's a puppet master behind all that. So
that's right. And then this one's a fun one, because Elon had this up on his Twitter until he didn't. He had to take it off at some point, but that's why we have screen grabbing, which is really nice to see that at one point Elon thought this was funny. Iran wants war, but look how close they put their country to our military bases. Clearly, that's a sign of war. That's aggressive. That's aggressiveness, Jay. Is that that's a sign of aggression where they put their country?
I think that was Elon's way of saying, "Give me more money, Israel, if you want me to shut up. Otherwise, I'm going to keep talking about you guys." So once they saw him put that up, they probably had to give him a few more contracts, or send a couple more dollars his way. So
he's like, "What about me? Aren't I important enough to blackmail? Come on, fly me out there and drug me up and show me the footage that you'll never release in the morning, and then I'll go over to the Wailing Wall and do some teary-eyed.
I promise, I'll touch the wall. I'll cry and everything. As soon as you put me in front of there, I'll tear up. Whatever you need me to do, man. I got you.
And then he takes the tweet down. But that's why we have screen grabs and captures and all this stuff. So that's always good. I love it when people can grab that stuff. The internet never go away. Interwebs are there forever, as we all know. So there we go. That should do it for this week in World War III Watch.